Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first of our SPE ETD web talks. My name is Antonio Staffoni and I am the chairman of SPE European Thermoforming Division. We have all gone through very difficult times lately in our own personal life. We had to adapt to a new normal. And in our business lives too, everyone had to adapt, and our business life has been greatly affected. Fortunately, technology came to the rescue, and we are all here today, although behind the screen, but meeting again to talk about issues in the plastic world. Now, when we think as plastic engineers of our professional lives, we had our own hard time on top of everything else. Plastic is and has been for many years now under a great attack, and for some good reasons, but not only and not always for some good reason. Also, there have been a lot of ideological attacks, and some of the activities and initiatives taken don't seem to make much sense always. So, what would we like to do about it? Well, we are a society of plastic engineers. First of all, I stress the word engineers. When an engineer is given a problem, we like to define, even before talking of a solution, we like to define the goal. What do we want to achieve? Then this goal has to be defined in terms of measurable achievements. At that point, we can suggest some solutions, give the trade-offs, cost and benefits of each one, so that people who are called to decide for the society can decide based on facts and figures. Once a decision is taken, then solutions can be enacted and we can monitor through a path whether these activities, these solutions are actually working in the real world as they were designed or not. Now, that's what we would like as the European Thermoforming Division, but I think as a society of plastic engineers as a whole, that's exactly what we would like to do. Let's tackle the problem as engineers do. And because of that, I am particularly proud to have at this very first web talks, maybe the first of a long series, we are very proud to have two exceptional speakers that will actually talk about their initiatives and their solutions to the problem. Plus, a third exceptional speaker who is only giving a very short preview of what he will talk about in our live conference in Geneva next year. So, without further ado, again, I'm very happy to have you here, and I'm giving now the floor over to my colleagues who will moderate our first web talks. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome from Heilbronn in Germany. We are here at the ILIC Tech Center, and I apologize firstly, I heard you had an echo in the system. The technicians are working on it and I hope it disappeared somewhere. This is my colleague Sven Engelmann. He's the head of packaging at ILIC here. And I'm Herb Kittelmann. I'm from the sales team at Marbach, and we are also located in Heilbronn in Germany. Today we are broadcasting from the brand new equipment which ILIC uses to do their FATs, to stream webinars, and to use this equipment for AR-based training. Since the conference needed to be postponed several times, the board of the ETD decided to keep you updated with these 3 webinars we try to organize. One is concentrating on recycling. The next one will be concentrating on smart technologies. And the last one on heavy gauge equipment. And that will bridge the time until we hopefully see us in live in Geneva in April 22. So we had to plan and rebook and plan again and rebook and make the program for Geneva. But now all is done. We are ready to run. And we thank you, the members of the ETD and the participants of the conference, to stick with us through these days.
Before Corona, plastic and plastic packaging had to fight a negative image driven by the problems we are all aware of. We did see a little relief in the last year, and people, at least for a short time, started to see the positive side of plastic. We, as the industry that forms the plastic into useful shapes, work to support the idea of a circular economy. I have made it my mission that I use every occasion to remind people of the purpose of packaging. Since this web talk is focusing on fin-gauge thermoforming and therefore on packaging, I'd like to point out that nothing is less sustainable than spoiling the packed goods due to a dysfunctional package. A successful package always requires the full consideration of all packaging properties. These considerations are protection, transport, hygiene, presentation at the point of sale, customer convenience, and of course, sustainability. All these properties can be achieved by thermoforming. During this COVID crisis, thermoforming delivered a tremendous contribution to secure essential supply of foodstuff, medical items, and pharmaceuticals. The thermoforming industry was able to react and supply all sorts of packaging to cope with the phenomena that small portion packs for individual consumers are now being needed in very large numbers. We have seen producers of packaging deliver way beyond their capacities, also using employees from the administration departments to run extra shifts. The demand at the beginning of the crisis was high and is still high. We are delighted to bring you today 3 exciting and most notable speakers. But before we start with the technology insights, we have a short update from our keynote speaker in Geneva in 2022, Mr. Paul Earnshaw from Tesco.
Hi, I'm Paul Earnshaw. Really looking forward to meeting you guys in March, as long as coronavirus lets us do that. So I'm the technical packaging manager and I work for Tesco. Some of you may be aware of Tesco. We are the 3rd largest big retailer in the world, and both us and our customers are really passionate about sustainability and the use of plastics. You may be aware that we have some policies in place where we're banning certain types of plastic and we're promoting the use of other types of plastic. When we meet in March, what I really want to go through is to explain to you what plastics we like and which ones we don't, and what our thinking is behind that. And then actually, because it's a two-way thing, I need you to challenge me on, are we making the correct decisions about which plastics are good and which plastics are bad? I really want to get that dialogue going to understand what we should be doing to do the right thing by the planet. Really looking forward to it.
Okay, still some technical problems I apologize for. I hope this will improve. But now let's try to start with our first speaker. We all agree that plastic does not belong into the oceans. It does not belong into the rivers, or it does not belong onto the streets of the highway, nor should it be burned in the backyard of your house. That's easily said for someone who lives in Germany, where the town manages to collect the garbage every week. But it's different if you have to worry about how do you feed your family on the next day. This is why David created something very special. You can say his idea turns dirt into gold, but it's even better. It turns pollution into an opportunity for the poor. It's called the Plastic Bank. Let me introduce you to David. David has been named one of the world's most compassionate entrepreneurs from the Salt magazine. He's the recipient of the United Nations Lighthouse Award for Planetary Health. He received the Paris Climate Conference Sustainability Community Award, and he received the award from Ernst & Young for Lifetime Achievement. He's the past president of the Vancouver chapter of Entrepreneurs. Please welcome and let David introduce you to his idea.
Good day from beautiful Vancouver, Canada, everybody. This is David Katz. I'm the CEO and founder at Plastic Bank. I love to begin all of my conversations with an audience, and I ask the audience, who in the audience or which of you believes that a disaster is unfolding in the ocean. Which of you believes that someone has to do something about it? Well, I could probably guarantee that each of you, even that small voice in your mind, has said, yes, something is occurring and someone has to do something about it. And you're not alone. Everyone next to you, everyone in your home is thinking the same thing. We can look at the next generation of consumer, what we can affectionately call the Greta generation, one so inspired by the degradation of the environment that they are taking to the streets to be in action, demanding someone do something about it. My conversation today will be a bit about that generation, about what is unfolding, and about how each and every one of you is that someone, that opportunity to truly have an impactful, immense change, not just on the environment, but in society. And I'll share with you my journey of Plastic Bank and what we've created in the world, the opportunity to truly have change. And it still does begin with the Greta generation. You see, I believe that the next powerful strategy in business is beyond sustainability, beyond the conversation that we should be doing less damage than perhaps we were doing last year. How might we be able to reduce under a thin veil costs that we can tell people are sustainability initiatives? You see, the Greta generation can see through that. They know that that is just words, and what they are looking for is action. And the next field of business, the next generation of business, is the regeneration economy. Regeneration, repair, that is what's coming. The blue ocean strategy of today is no longer that of sustainability, but of repairing the damage that we and our competitors have done. Now, in frame or reference of the speaking that I do around the world, when I ask my audience, why have they come? In the years past, when I first began, the conversations truly were the consumer. The consumers are looking and they're demanding that we make change. But what I find today, and the answers I receive today, is that organizations are having trouble hiring the next generation. They've become unable now to attract a smart new mind, because that smart new mind is committed to change and regeneration. Well, how do I know all of these things? Well, it's been an almost 10-year journey with Plastic Bank. I was crazy enough and courageous enough to think that I am someone as well. I grew up on the west coast of Canada on an island. My playground was the beach across from my house. I walked a long sand beach to go to school, and I began witnessing over 35 years ago the degradation of the environment. I saw what at first I thought was beachcombing, finding plastic washing up on the shore, to then truly powerfully know that it was people's garbage. A tide of waste was washing into my beach and the beaches around the world, and my soul lives there, my holidays are there, and I began to witness degradation 35 years ago, and I've always just been in the thought of it. And what I have discovered is that of the plastic that's entering the ocean, more than 80% of it is coming from areas of extreme poverty. It really should be no surprise where in extreme poverty, where you don't have medicine for your children, you don't have food, you may have a curtain as a door, maybe you live in a tent as a home. What kind of consideration could you possibly give to recycling? And even the government itself, when an entire population lives in such degradation, how could the government possibly afford waste management, MRFs, segregation, and everything else, or trucks, or all of it? They can't afford to feed the population. And in that condition, the only way to discard of your material is in the canal, in the river, in the stream, or burn it, which is where we see the incidence of cardiopulmonary disease being so high in areas of poverty, such degradation of air pollution from the burning of the materials as well. But there is no other choice. What can you do other than throw it in the canal or the river? I also know that, like walking into a kitchen, and if you were to walk into your kitchen and the sink was overflowing and water was spilling all over the floor and you were in a panic to fix it, to create some change in that situation, and you had in front of you a bucket, a mop, or a plunger, you'd think quickly which you should use first, where really what you need to be doing is turning off the tap. It'd be futile to mop or plunge if we don't turn the tap off first. So really those conditions, this place where we know that plastic is entering the ocean, that is what we need to be doing. We need to stop the flow of plastic from entering the ocean. Futile to go and clean the ocean. See, so it turns out that if we want to really help the ocean, we have to end poverty or the conditions of poverty. And even though there's a mass extinction occurring and people want to clean the ocean, they want to clean beaches, all beautiful, working on important means we need to end the conditions that plastic enters the ocean to begin with. And therein lies Plastic Bank. We're affectionately known as the world's largest chain of stores for the poor, where everything in the store can be purchased using plastic, what was waste. The stores powerfully offer everything from school tuition to medical insurance and Wi-Fi, cell phone minutes, groceries, clean water, everything the poor truly need using plastic that would otherwise end up in the ocean as money. Like one of our collectors in Haiti, Lisa, she's one of our remarkable and affectionate collectors, one of our community. She collects material during the day. She puts her girls in school. She then goes out with a group of other moms. It's a very social activity and very entrepreneurial. The harder they work, the more they make. They collect material during the day as much as they can from areas where it congregates, door to door often, or from business to business. And at the end of her day, before she picks up the girls, she comes back to one of our collection centers where she's recognized. The material is weighed at a digital scale and a value is established for the material. The material is further segregated, and caps and rings and labels and other material types are all separated and ultimately amalgamated at a location as other collectors bring their material in as well. But Lisa, now, she's been able to be recognized through our banking application. We've developed a blockchain-based banking application for the poor. At the heart of everything that we do is authenticity and transparency and protection of the poor. You see, how might we increase the perceived value of the materials that everybody wants to go get? One of those ways is through banking. So as Lisa has the value established, it's transferred into her online bank account. It now becomes an asset. She has a savings account. She has a sense of dignity. She has the ability to save money, earn more money on top of that. She's also safe against robbery and theft. It's also impossible for her husband to take it and buy alcohol or other things with it. You see, Lisa ultimately establishes a new sense of worth personally. And so does the plastic. It also increases in value because now Lisa sees it differently. She sees it truly as money, which is what we've done. We're modern day alchemists, turning what was waste into worth. That's one way we collect material in different locations around the world, as we've expanded from Haiti into the Philippines, into Indonesia and Brazil and Egypt, and now going into Thailand and Cameroon and their Nigeria after Cameroon. However, in Haiti as well, one of the other opportunities that we've installed is collection locations at schools, where anybody has the opportunity to collect and return the material to school to help pay for tuition. Haiti, like many of the other countries we operate in the world, the government can't afford school tuition or books or uniforms, and millions of children, hundreds of millions of children are not going to school currently because the family can't afford it. Well, now as the Plastic Bank continues to implement programming, every school becomes a collection location as well. So the family can just collect all of their plastic and the plastic of their extended family or their community and return that to the school as a collection location. And that value is then attributed to the school tuition. You see, now that's a different paradigm as well, because now that family doesn't view the plastic as plastic. It views it not even as the $20 or less a month that it costs to pay for the tuition, but they look at it as an opportunity to end poverty in the family. Poverty would never be able to leave the family if the children aren't educated. The only hope that I've ever encountered around the world of all parents is that their children will go to school, but now they have an opportunity to use the very material that would otherwise degrade our environment as an absolute resource and opportunity to end poverty and clean the environment simultaneously. The same transaction occurs through the blockchain, so we know which families collected it and how much they've collected it. We have opportunities for small stores that use our application that allows the community to return plastic as money to buy for groceries, to buy things like groceries. We have an opportunity that we've initiated with the Vatican of all organizations. We're not faith-based, but powerfully love in the spirit. And that we've created a program for all places of faith to not just encourage their parishioners to bring materials on their day of worship, but to bring the recycling as well. You see, what we've done is we've created a monetary system. We've become true alchemists. So all that material and all of those different models is returned to a centralized location, further segregated, to then return to one of our processing partners in the world. Wherever we operate, we try to work with someone who's either flaking or washing the material at minimum, or even just baling it. And it gets readied as an export to our customers. We add as much value in country as possible. That material is then sold to our great global partners like Henkel or SC Johnson or Hugo Boss. In Indonesia, Coca-Cola, in the Philippines, Coca-Cola, and hundreds of other customers who put that material back into their packaging. We're really closing the loop in the circular economy, giving an opportunity for all of that material to land on the shelf so that you, who really wants to make change in the world, that knows that you need to make change in the world, can participate as well. So that every time you go to a shelf and you buy a bottle of Nature Box or Persil or whatever else it may be, you would in fact be hand in hand with the world's poor, collecting material from the ocean-bound waterways and ending poverty simultaneously. What we've done is give every single person in the world an opportunity to participate. Now, the banking application, not only does Lisa and the other collectors have an opportunity to be able to have a bank account, that asset, but the more frequently Lisa and the almost 20,000 other collectors we have return the material, the more frequently they return it, the higher the quality of the material. They earn a credit rating. They have the ability to immediately access loans and insurance policies and other life ascending opportunities. True alchemy. We're having tremendous success around the world. We're just about to announce that we've collected over 1,000 million bottles. Of course, there's more packaging and other things we collect. But 1 billion bottles, and we know that with the world's production, that is still just a drop in the ocean. We've affected around 85,000 lives as a result, and we've increased collector income by over 40%. We've received about 14 billion media impressions. We continue to make powerful strides in the world, gaining more collectors every day. We're excited for Egypt and what's occurring there, and certainly Africa. So the plastic bank truly is an ecosystem that reveals value in all things. We really are win, 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 win. Win to the sixth power, where even the plastic wins, it becomes new again. In my limited time, I invite everyone here as well in the participation of this change, this place where each of you gets to participate, whether you are a consumer or user of the material. There's an opportunity for each of you to either partner with us. So the plastic bank truly is a powerful ecosystem that reveals value in what was waste. And in my limited time with you, my hope for all of you is to participate. Somehow you all have power, whether it be as a consumer to buy a product that has social plastic inside of it, that has created powerful change in the world, or even be the consumer that shows up at the store and asks for recycled content, creating a demand for the material, perhaps as a manufacturer, as a supplier to brands, an opportunity to make true powerful change, to connect with the consumer, a new generation of employee. You see, when I began this journey, this May the 11th, 2013, it was an overwhelming and very daunting task to create a global chain of stores working in areas of poverty and violence and insecurity, to try to create a supply chain of material that would be consistent to manufacturing, to work with the world's largest brands, to build story and to build authenticity, to then build a technology platform. There was just so many reasons for me to say no. It would have been so easy to have the idea and keep walking, but I knew that with the idea, having lived and not tried would not have worked for me. And the one message that I like to share all the time is that although I had the idea of the plastic bank and that first thought, the second thought was the overwhelming self-degradation, the inability to conceive that I could be the one that could create this. The birth of the plastic bank, and I think all great things, comes from the idea of the third thought that I had. And the third thought simply was, David, you don't need to be the person that could change the world. You don't need to be the person that can create the plastic bank. But what you get to do is slowly choose to become the person who could. And that's really my story, is this continuous journey. The acceptance that every day I can create. And so I leave you with that, and I leave you with the knowing that nothing we're doing is against the laws of physics. So no matter what anyone has told you, no matter if someone has said, oh, it can't be done, that won't work, the price is too much, this is that, it's not against the laws of physics. And everything that we need as a society to change everything, to save the planet, is available now. All of the technology is here. There's nothing against the laws of physics. So I challenge you to choose to slowly become the person who can make change. And it just starts with you. As a consumer, as a person, as a family person, brother, sister, mother. Choose to be who the world needs you to be. Thank you.
Okay, let's see if this works. Hello, David. Good morning to Vancouver. Okay.
Good morning.
Okay, that seems to work. Thank you very much. It was a very impressive talk. And we already have the first question. I don't know if you can see the stream, but The question is, what percentage of the 1,000 million bottles you have collected are collected through these stores?
Well, we have stores and we have other collection locations like schools and churches and other ones as well. All the material we're collecting are coming through established plastic bank collection locations or branches. Some of them have come from formalizing other informal collection locations, giving them a system, providing additional revenue and income for the collectors. So it's a variety, but all of them have come through that exchange process. Like we're more like bank branches, deposit plastic and withdraw the things you need. And all of the material we've collected have come through those locations.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we have one more question from the board. You mentioned a project in Indonesia where we have these special single-served water cups. They are guaranteed the drinkable water and are very popular there. Many of us are working actually in the supply chain of making these cups. They are made 100% out of polypropylene, but we saw them littering the streets and the coast. Does the plastic bank accept this kind of cups in particular? And what's about other PP items? And can you effectively recycle them?
Yeah, polypropylene is highly recyclable. We love to collect those. Indonesia is awash. Philippines are awash with polypropylene single-serve cups. It's important for the population as well. We see that being a great use, and the recyclability is there, and we collect and recycle those as well. Now, there's the opportunity to provide additional incentive to have them collected, and we'd love to be able to work with anyone here to be able to provide that economic value to extract more and more from the environment. And we see them on the beaches everywhere. So they're popular, highly recyclable, collectible. We do collect them, and we do recycle them.
Okay, thank you. That's good news, at least for us working in that branch. Another question is, what percentage do you think, in average, does the income of these collectors increase through your initiative? Can you say that?
Yeah, out of the data, of course, the blockchain application, we know that we have around rough numbers 20,000 collectors. We collected 1 billion bottles, influencing around 85,000 family members, and increased collector income by 40%. We remove all the layers of middlemen, and we make sure that it goes into the reward for the material that ultimately transfers into the income of the family. 40% increase. Okay,
that's pretty significant. One question is, what kind of materials are the collected materials recycled?
At which place or where?
Or where?
Yeah.
Where are we work with our local processing partners. In whatever region we go into, we look for either a flaking line, a hot wash flaking line, or a pelletizer, whatever that may be in that country, or even someone who bales. Where we're operating, sometimes they don't have we'll call it the technology to do what we need, but they'll bale it and get it ready for export. So certainly we work at a local processor. We have a spoken hub model. All the collected and aggregated material is then taken to our processor, who we work with to increase the value that they provide into the material and increase their working conditions and ensure that they're adhering to a European or North American labor standard, safety equipment, and everything else. So we license someone to be our partner, and we ensure or try to get everything recycled locally. Super important for us to add as much value in country as possible.
Okay, that was already part of the next question is, and how far can you make sure that there's no dangerous stuff in the material which you recycle and that it's not spoiling the goods which are produced out of the recycled material?
The plastic bank provides a raw material. Now, our customers who are then adding additional value by making it into packaging, that would be something they would do. Now, our lab as well adheres to a standard that our customers request of us, and we make sure that we're shipping materials that meet a standard for their manufacturing. Now, perhaps not applicable for all food grade material, but still available for some when it is into a layer of a material, middle layer of material with recycled content around the world.
Good. Thank you very much, David. I think we proceed. Have a very good day in Vancouver. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, everyone. And thank you for listening. Thank you for having me.
We all fight daily against the fake arguments of plastic not being as circular as paper, for example. If we manage to create a circular stream for plastic, we must assure that the material can be reused with as little extra effort as possible and that something useful can be made from it. If that is maintained, then David Katz's idea that plastic garbage becomes a valuable thing will create its own economy. Today, what can we really make out of recycled plastic, other than park benches or flower pots? But this demand is limited. Therefore, the full cycle is a highly desired must-have. So let's come to our next presenter, Professor Edward Kosior from NextLooPP. NextLooPP is working on reusing the plastic for its original purpose. That means a yogurt cup becomes a yogurt cup again. In the next presentation, Professor Ed Kosior will inform us about the status of today's technology. NextLooPP, closing the loop for PP recycling, a technology update. Professor Kosior's expertise in the plastic recycling sector spans 46 years, split between 23 years as an academic and 23 years working in plastic packaging recycling. He has been instrumental in designing numerous modern recycling plants and has achieved a number of patent recycling breakthroughs. He also provides support to organizations such as the Earth Champion Foundation, Plastic Oceans, PEW Foundation, Trust on the project Stopping Ocean Plastics, and is the founder of NextLooPP, the multi-client project aimed at closing the loop on food-grade PP.
Hello, my name is Edward Kosior. I'm the Managing Director of NextTech and NextLooPP, and my talk today is on closing the loop on food-grade polypropylene packaging. NextTech is a company that is focused on the recycling of post-consumer packaging. We've been doing this for over 17 years, and we develop unique solutions for barriers to the recycling of packaging. And we also design recycling factories to allow materials to be made to be used back into the circular economy. This talk is about the recycling of polypropylene, which has been one of the major polymers used throughout the plastics industry. It's being made at the rate of about 60 million tonnes per annum. It's approximately 20% of the global production of plastics. And in Europe, we use 10 million tonnes of polypropylene for a wide range of applications due to its very high stiffness to weight ratio, its toughness, its insolubility, its moldability, the capacity to make fibers, sheet, injection molded items, and many other materials. So highly versatile, widely used, yet right now it's not widely recycled. And of course, that means that the lack of recycled material will inhibit the use of recycled polypropylene back into packaging materials. And in Europe, we have a charge being applied to packaging without 30% recycled content, and that's 800 euros per tonne. In Britain, by next April in 2022, it will be £200 per tonne. And these taxes and charges are there to encourage the use of recycled content back into new materials. And in Europe, the 4 million tonnes that's used in packaging would generate a demand of 1.2 million tonnes per year. And at the moment, there is no food-grade recycled polypropylene, and this is why we have developed the NextLooPP project to address this gap. And as you know, brand owners globally have been making commitments to reach recycled content targets. Typically, these targets are 25% recycled content by 2025, and in some cases, the recycled content is going to go to 50 or even to 100%. And of course, the retailers that are putting packaging into the hands of consumers are also feeling the pressure and the need to adopt recycled content in packaging. Supermarkets like Marks and Spencer's, Co-op have already made very clear and strong commitments to use recycled content in their packaging. Tesco also recognised the view that food-grade PP materials would be welcome to address their initiatives. Morrisons and Iceland also see recycled polypropylene as a key step forward in the inclusion of material back into packaging. And the key here is the contact with food. Recycling of PP happens right now, but back to lower value or downcycled applications. And food packaging is much more demanding, and this has been the gap. We started the NextLooPP project, and we now have 30 companies that are involved in the project, and they cover the full supply chain, from the recycling of material to the conversion of resin into packaging formats, to the supplies of technology involved in the recycling process, and also industry associations and government organisations like WRAP UK, and groups like OPRL, who are involved in the definition of the recycling logos. We have label companies and ink companies who are involved in the supply of part of the technology. So, and also universities to conduct further research. So the NextLooPP initiative is based on two technology platforms. The first one is a sorting technology, which is called Polyprism, and the other one is a decontamination technology called Pristine. And these two platforms have been developed by 8 years of intense research in order to make these systems plug and play ready. And they are now ready for use. And we have designed both platforms to be usable with the current infrastructure that's available to the recycling sector in United Kingdom and Europe. Polyprism is the sorting technology, which is based on the use of markers that fluoresce under ultraviolet light. This is a very simple step. We have a library of markers that can be used to tag a bottle or a package so that it can be identified uniquely. This allows us to select and sort the material, and so we can segregate food from non-food, or we can use other categories such as bio-based plastics or black plastics and many other things. But our focus for polypropylene will be separating food from non-food. And we can achieve 95% purity in one step, greater than 99% purity in two steps at very high speeds, 3 meters per second at loading rates of 2 tons per hour per meter width of belt. So Polyprism is the separation technology. We have a short video to show you this at work. In this video, you'll see 2 types of bottles that have fluorescent marker sleeves on them. They look like conventional bottles under normal daylight, so the markers are invisible. But here we've mixed them with many other plastics. Under ultraviolet light, the marked bottles fluoresce. The cameras that are used in the sorting system can see the fluorescence, and they are ejected. And as you can see in this video, the separation is very complete. As we've said, greater than 95% selectivity in each step. which means that we can gain very high separation of one type of material to another. And we have shown that this technology can be applied to existing recycling installations, such as the one we've got shown here, where we're able to fit the ultraviolet light source and the software to the sorting system in under an hour, and then successfully sort fluorescent marker-based materials on the system. So the marker technology is plug and play, ready to go. And we don't have to install new equipment, but we have to simply upgrade those units to the new system. On the decontamination technology, we've got our NextLooPP pristine system, and this slide shows the decontamination efficiency on the basis of what's called a challenge test. In this challenge test, we apply a number of surrogate chemicals to polypropylene, and we look to see whether we can extract those materials by the recycling process. So we've actually used, in this case, 6 chemicals, and they are meant to represent the whole spectrum of chemicals that might be able to be found in the consumer's home, or if they happen to be used in a package. So we have low molecular weight, high molecular weight, polar and non-polar molecules of various types. And in this particular table, you can see that the removal rates, the decontamination rate here, is of the order of 100% going to 95% depending on the molecular weight. Those very high decontamination rates, coupled with the high initial concentrations, can be used to predict whether we can actually decontaminate this to food grade conditions. And indeed, we have done the testing looking at migration of these surrogate chemicals into food simulants, and we've shown that the materials are not extracted at all, or they're below the level of detection. And that means that we have confidence that this material meets food grade requirements as specified by EFSA. And the experimental results have been inspected by and validated by Steptoe and Johnson, who specialise in food grade regulations. And this gives us the confidence that this process will be able to create a new stream of food grade recycled polypropylene, provided the correct pretreatment and sorting is carried out to provide the input materials. The NextLooPP project will deliver a series of milestones along the supply chain. So besides developing the recycling infrastructure for polypropylene food grade materials, it will also establish the certification that will give brand owners, consumers and recyclers the confidence that the process is fit for purpose and the materials are indeed food grade. And it will enhance the current recycling programs of recyclers and produce greater returns for them. It will also develop specific grades of materials for film, sheet, thermoforming, blow moulding and injection moulding. And we will also develop a series of design guidelines for food grade recycling so that brand owners, retailers and converters can produce materials that keep on enhancing the quality of recycled materials as they go through multiple loops. The NextLooPP program is designed to benefit the businesses that are making and recycling packaging in United Kingdom and in Europe. The innovation will help companies meet their recycling targets, and it will help keep packaging costs low by avoiding the charges that would otherwise be applied if they had no recycled content. And very importantly, the recycling of polypropylene will reduce the carbon footprint of the packaging that's being produced. For each tonne recycled, at least 1 tonne of CO2 will be saved compared to using virgin resin. and this is compared against landfill as a destination. And the savings are approximately 2 tonnes of CO2 equivalent if the material is destined to go to waste to energy. NextLoop Recycle PP is meant to be a direct replacement for virgin PP, and this will help companies produce materials and make products that will be able to be used as a drop-in replacement, so making the whole process relatively simple and straightforward. Just to highlight some of the areas of progress in the NextLoop project, the first plant will be built by Viridor in United Kingdom, and the capacity will be of the order of 7,000 to 10,000 tonnes per annum, and it's expected to be delivering material by the end of 2022, next year. The grades of material that will be made will be a natural white combination, which we can often call ivory, and also a grey made from the multicoloured materials. And these will be available as 100% recycled content materials. And in addition, we will develop hybrid grades that will be mixed with virgin polypropylene for special technical performance applications such as thin wall injection moulding, or perhaps some sheet extrusion, or areas where we need high rigidity. The grades, as I've mentioned, are suited for injection moulding and extrusion because these are the main conversion techniques. And the recommended addition rate would be of the order of between 25 and 50%, even though 100% is possible. And the reason why we're recommending the lower addition rates are purely so that more products can actually be tested and produced with recycled content rather than focusing on a smaller number of products. There is a new development that the NextLoop program will undertake as well, and it's to produce inert grade polypropylene, which is a new grade of material which will be applicable to many cosmetic applications, and it will provide a very economic material which will be very well suited to non-migratory conditions needed for cosmetics. The NextLoop program will provide a lot of opportunities for the businesses that are participating, and they will be able to have supplies of food-grade recycled polypropylene for their internal testing. Now, that will mean processing, the evaluation of mechanical properties and organoleptic properties and migration performance. All of these steps are needed to make sure that every end market can be met by food-grade recycled polypropylene. And this is an important part of the whole program so that everyone can actually have confidence from beginning to end that recycled polypropylene is viable for those particular areas of market. Companies can also come to NextLoop to become a licensee so they can actually manufacture these materials. We already have one confirmed and one more in process of negotiation, and we are getting inquiries about other areas. So we welcome this activity. Also in the NextLoop project, we know that the companies participating will be the first to bring their products to the market with recycled content, making them product leaders in this area. There is ongoing demand for this material. Here are the materials that we're working on. You can see on the left the bales of post-consumer rigid packaging that are being sorted, in this particular case, audited for their characteristics. And on the right-hand side, we can see the packaging made from food-grade recycled material. And of course, the various colours that will be made will be matched with the appropriate end market applications. So the NextLoop program is one that is ready to deliver food-grade recycled PP to the packaging industry. And even though this is a pioneering activity, we're confident that it will be the start of closing the loop on recycled polypropylene, making this material part of the circular economy. And our direction is that all of these packages would be 100% recyclable and 100% recycled. So thank you for listening to my talk, and we welcome inquiries about NextLooP, and we welcome the opportunity to work with you in closing the loop on food-grade recycled polypropylene. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Professor Kosior. That was a very interesting presentation. I can't wait to get PCR, food grade PP. We have some time for questions. I see in the chat that no questions have occurred, but from the ETT board, we do have a question. Where do you expect the sorting and recycling industry to move in the coming years, and how will they create economy with more material streams going forward?
Can they be recycled back into a food grade material? And this requires a new type of sorting, a sorting with fluorescent markers. And this will be the next step that will have to happen. Brand owners that want to take their material back through the loop will have to have one way of differentiating the material. And so we propose the use of fluorescent markers to do that. However, we will have other grades that will be suitable for non-food applications, and polypropylene is used in many. So, for example, we have a grade which we're calling inert grade, which has very low migration limits, which is eminently suitable for the cosmetics industry. Now, that industry specifies food grade, yet what they really want is a grade that doesn't contaminate or migrate into the non-food cosmetics materials. So the polypropylene sector really does have a big opportunity to catch up in the recycling content of its products. And we hope the NextLooP program will create high quality materials, both food grade and high quality non-food grade materials.
All right, thank you very much. I think we have time for one more question. And that is, what role do you expect chemical recycling to play in the future for PP?
Okay. So chemical recycling is, I think, a big opportunity for the industry to create a loop on its materials. However, we've got a long way to go before...
It's okay, you're on.
It's all right. Works well.
Sorry, we had a bit of a gap. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yep, okay. So chemical recycling is a technology that is essentially in its very beginnings in the petrochemical sector. The principle of chemical recycling is you use the input materials like a polypropylene package back into hydrocarbons, and then you put it through the whole refining chain. Now, the problem with chemical recycling is you don't get a quantitative product. So you might do this with PET, but with polypropylene, you get random chain scission. And while you can make a pyrolysis oil, you don't make a product that's directly broken down into monomers. And so it doesn't make a very simple process. So chemical recycling is hopefully something that will happen in a big way, but we know it's not happening now, and it will probably take quite a while before chemical recycling becomes a big factor in the recovery of plastics packaging. And the one factor that I think that holds chemical recycling back is the higher carbon footprint that it has. So it misses out on the opportunity to have a reduced carbon footprint, which mechanical recycling will have.
So this is probably one of the inhibitions, although it's a very necessary process because there are many materials on the market today that are not easily recyclable. And so ideally, we would use mechanical recycling for conventionally easy to recycle materials, and would put complex materials like multi-layers, multi-materials into the chemical recycling area where we break it down to carbonaceous materials. But we still have a long way to go for this to become a major stream of material that is actually going back into new materials again. But everyone we know is working on it, and we hope to see this grow fairly quickly to make sure we don't have too much material that's left lying around and not being used as a useful form of carbon back into new useful materials.
Thank you once again, Mr. Kosior, for this presentation and answering the questions. We still have some questions in the chat. We would prefer to answer them in writing and display them in our webpage. You will receive the link for that also. All right, then back to Herb.
Thank you. So, until the chemical recycling will come alive, we can sort out the sound issues. I hope the connection will be better now because we stay within Europe. And I'm happy to introduce you, last but not least, Thomas and Thomas. That's Thomas Drustrup. He's working for the Danish Plastic Federation, and Thomas Thellesen from Faerch. Faerch is a global packaging company and a pioneer in creating sustainable packaging, especially in PET, over the years. In cooperation with the Danish Plastic Federation, they did create a design guide that enables you and us to support the circular idea. So please listen to what they have to say. Thomas and Thomas.
Hello to you all out there, and thank you so much for inviting us to speak at this SPE ETD webinar talk. My name is Thomas Drustrup. I'm the Managing Director of the Danish Plastics Federation, and I'm here with another Thomas.
Thomas Thellesen from Faerch, Senior Director for Sustainability and External Affairs.
And we got the opportunity to speak at this webinar, and when we realized that there was two presentations about the same subject, it was obvious to us that we needed to try to combine the two presentations. So that's what we're doing. So again, thank you for the opportunity. The main focus of the presentation is recycling packaging. I would like to spend just a few minutes presenting the Danish Plastics Federation, so you know a little bit about where I'm coming from. The Danish Plastics Federation is a member organization, around 280 members right now. We are representing pretty much the whole value chain within plastics. So we have tool makers, machine makers, raw material suppliers, the converters, and also the recyclers. Our members are big well-known companies as Lego, Coloplast, Faerch as well, but 70% are small and medium-sized enterprises. We represent roughly 27,000 employees in Denmark, the total plastics industry, and 10% of the Danish manufacturing industry. We're in close cooperation with many organizations, both national but also international. So the work that we're doing are focusing on Denmark, but we are in close cooperation with both European organizations, but also other international organizations.
Well, I'm representing Faerch, packaging converter and an integrated recycler. We primarily focus on PET. And if we look at our total PET mass balance consumption, we will have approximately 70% post-consumer recycled material in our business. We are represented 15, 16 places around Europe, where one of these sites is located in the Netherlands. It's our FORPET, it's our circular recycler PET to PET, so tray-to-tray recycling. where we, at an industrial scale, take, PET food packaging and actually turn it back into food-grade PET material. We are at the moment scaling our business, and we're both looking forward to a more circular economy in Europe, both as a packaging converter, but also as a recycler.
And the primary focus for me is the new design guide for packaging that I have the privilege of presenting. But before I do that, I would first look into on what basis did we make the design guide. The background is more or less the debate about plastics. We have seen pictures like this about Danish plastic waste ending up in Malaysia, Indonesia. We have concerned citizens about plastic ending up in nature. So there's a lot of negative focus and negative image around plastic and the plastics industry and the plastic products. So as an association, we both needed to and wanted to work proactively with this agenda. And focus on also waste management in Denmark. How do we create the circular economy? How do we reuse more, recycle more of our plastic waste? Stopping to talk about plastic waste, starting to talk about resources and the great resources that the plastic waste is. So it's much better than just ending up in energy recovery incineration facilities. It's a wonderful material, and there are so many possibilities with it when we, produce it right, design it right, dispose of it correctly, and also sort it and recycle it in the right way. So basically, that's at least some of the backgrounds for making the design guide. Also, we did ask the consumers. How did they perceive the plastic packaging? In the industry, we know that the plastic packaging are preserving the food, we are avoiding food waste, but the consumers are concerned. So we asked them if they would opt out plastic, even if it meant a lower shelf life for the food. And very surprisingly, at least to me, they almost a quarter said to a high degree or to a very high degree that they would avoid plastics. 42% said to some degree, so we are way above 60% in consumers that would like to some degree avoid plastics. So I'm not sure, do you have any experience as a converter on this in the dialogue with your...
I think as a packaging provider, and especially when you're working with plastics, there's always this extra need to datafy, to prove, to argue that you're here to do the best thing. I think that we're seeing a tendency with all of our customers and also all of our end consumers around Europe that they need to be informed, and to some degree we need to be better at educating. And I think we need to validate, and we need to prove what we're stating is actually truth. Often when we are looking at LCAs, looking at comparison material and so on, a plastic material will come out better. But we're also here because there is a definite need for good design and also a true need for a system to enable a circular economy. So yeah.
Yeah. And then back to the design guide. The design guide that we are speaking about today is this one. It's the volume 2 of the design guide. The first design guide, we invited the whole value chain as the association. We wanted to create a very broad understanding of the things that we needed to do. We didn't want to go out as the plastics industry and represent a design guide. We wanted to invite the whole value chain so that we had every possibility to look at the barriers throughout the different stakeholders and throughout the whole value chain. So we gathered around not only the producers and converters, but also politicians, the retailers, the municipalities, waste handlers, product designers, and inviting politicians. We made sure that we had different parties from the political system around the table, so that when we presented the end result, the design guide, we made sure that everybody was heard beforehand. The first issue that we had, or the first publication, volume 1 of the design guide, was 12-page publication. But after about a year or something like that, it was very well received within our membership and our companies that were using it, and they were finding out that it was not detailed enough. So we needed to go into more details in the design guide. And then we brought together the working group, as you see at the slide. Faerch was one of the stakeholders and participants in the working group. Again, municipalities, the whole value chain around the table, to make sure that we have a good product. So that ended up with 60 pages. Our design guide, volume 2, looking at the circular economy and circular plastic packaging.
So why are we as a company involving ourselves in such a publication? I think the clear answer is that we want a circular economy. I think we're looking at a society where we for many years talked about a circular economy, or the so-called circular economy. And to some degree, I think we should compare it a bit with renewable energy or a renewable system 20, 30 years ago. Back then, everyone talked about it. It was very expensive. Today, it's the cheapest form of energy is to wind turbine up on land. And that's where we want to go. So as Franz Timmermans says, and I think that's a lovely quote, circular economy is the model for the future. And I think that's what we're all aiming for, and especially in the industry that we're in, enabling this sort of circular economy going forward.
Yes. So taking a closer look at the design guide at hand, the vision for this design guide is to strengthen the market for recycling of plastic packaging and to make Denmark a global circular recycling and reuse leader. And to do that, there's some dogmas for the design guide. We want to make sure that we have a high quality in the waste stream, not only focusing on recycling and recycle big volumes, but focusing really on the quality of the recycling so that we have a good product at the end of it. The plastic properties must be retained when we recycle it. The design guide as well should also be is made to open opportunities for innovation. It must not be restrictive. It's a dialogue guide as well, where as a producer or product designer, you can sit down with your customer and try to figure out which way do we go if we really want to make a circular product. So it's a good opportunity to share new ideas and to have innovation. The users of the design guide should have the possibility to make an informed choice. We really need the function of the packaging. It needs to protect the food or whatever it's meant to have as function. So that's the primary thing. But in designing it, how do we make sure it's as circular as possible? Design alone cannot do it. The sorting must also be taken into account. We need to try to have a system that focuses on dividing food and non-food, even divide into color if we need that. But again, we need to start it. Right now we are at a different stage, but that's pretty much the visions for the design guide. The first step in the design guide, when you're going through it, is that you have to make the choice about the business model. And we all know the four headlines here: refuse, reuse, recycle, and reduce. As the plastics industry, we are also advocating that you don't have to use plastic just because it's plastic. You only use plastic where it makes sense. So if there's another material that is better, use another material. But use plastic if it makes good sense and if it's the best choice. At this particular presentation, I will focus on the recycling part and the mechanical recycling. We know there's many types of recycling, and a lot of innovation is going on right now. But for the moment, it's the mechanical recycling that we are focusing on. When you have chosen your business model, you need to find out what kind of material do you want to use. And in the design guide, we are primarily focusing on 3 types of plastic material: PP, PE, and PET. And the reason for that is that we got data out of the municipalities of Denmark. And at the slide, it is the municipality of Copenhagen, which is pretty much representative of the Danish society. And looking at the household waste stream, we found that more than 90% of the plastic waste are in the 3 fractions, PP, PE, and PET. Pretty much 1/3 of each, so big equally used materials. And we know that if we want to have a feasible business model within the recycling, we need to look at volumes as well. So looking at the main material in the Danish household waste, we are looking at PP, PE, and PET. Also, another finding, looking at the data out of the municipality, is that more than 50%, 52 to be exact here, are food packaging. So there's a very big part of the total household waste that is food packaging. The goal of it all is to go for a circular recycling principle. We really need to or want to try to create a product that when you design it, you make sure that after end of use, it's a product that is thought through both in the sorting and in the recycling, so that we can have a high quality in the material, but also we want no loss of functionality of the product. So we don't want to downgrade it. We want to make sure that if you have a high quality product, and we know that the food grade plastics are the highest quality, so we want to make sure that food contact material, food waste, becomes into new food packaging, for example. And also, if it's non-food, we want the shampoo bottle, for example, to become a new shampoo bottle. But we want it to be a circular principle that we are looking into.
I think that's the overall game for us as a trade-to-trade recycler, to continue to promote, continue to work for, and continue to actually deliver on the circular economy from PET food packaging back into PET food packaging.
Yeah. And also we know that the different kinds of plastic material doesn't have the same qualities or the same properties when we're looking at recycling. So what we did was that we introduced the spiral recycling principle, so that we break down the big circle into smaller circle. So if we start out by looking at food or non-food products, we can have a circular recycling within it. But as the recycling goes on and we lose properties of it and the material is downgraded, we can use it at a lower quality to another kind of products, but extend the lifespan, and then have a circular recycling within that product group, and so forth, going down to at the end where we have waste that we need to energy recover or chemical recycle, for that matter. So not all can be circular, but if it can't be circular, at least we can look at it from a spiral point of view. The design considerations for recyclability. As I mentioned before, PP, PE, and PET are the main plastic materials. But in the design guide, we also focus on flexibles. And when you have considered what kind of material do you want to use, there are different facts and considerations that you need to discuss with your customer or take into consideration when you're designing your product. Is it the right material? What kind of color do we want the product to have? Many are speaking about clear as being the most attractive because we can use it in everything afterwards. But there's many uses of the plastic material, both the clear and also the colored. But choosing what kind of color your product has, there are certain limitations or consequences of that choice. Also, the closure, the coverings, the lids. We want to, if it should be as recyclable as possible, you go for a mono material, one kind of material only. But it could be necessary to use more materials. So do you design it so you can take it apart easily after the use? So the closing and coverings, the lids, the top films, etc. What kind of solution do you go for there? Do you need print directly on the product or do you use labels? If you do, and if it's necessary, it makes some sort of limitation within the recyclability. As you can see at the slide, there is a table with 3 columns, a green, a yellow, and a red one. It doesn't mean that the product or the packaging is good or bad. It simply tells you how good it is in a circular recycling context. Again, I think I said it in the beginning, the most important thing is that the product meets the requirements, that if it's set out to protect the food, it should protect the food. If you're wrapping coffee beans and you need to take care of aroma and other things, well, it should do that. And that is the most important thing. And then when that criteria is met, you make it as recyclable as possible. There's schemes or tables for every material choice within the design guide. And I think the last slide that I have here is about quality and the costs that are closely linked. And that's just to say that we all know that there's cost associated with each link in the handling and the recycling. So good design doesn't do it alone. We really need to make sure that the whole value chain is working at the same direction so that we know that if we design the right product and the consumer knows how to dispose of it, we sort it, collect it, we sort it, and we recycle it in the best possible manner to make sure that we have as few steps as possible within it and we don't contaminate our material during this process. So focus again on high quality, high output of the recycling is the main focus. But that is in overview pretty much what's in the design guide when we are having the dialogue about designing a new product. There's many cases in here, also business models, closed loops, other good stuff in here. So I think we ended up with a very good product that we certainly have had a lot of positive feedback from our members, but also from the political system. Recommendations from the design guide ended up many places. And again, I think one of the reasons is that it's not the plastics industry in Denmark that is, making it alone. We are making it with the whole value chain, with our customers, with the politicians, with the NGOs, which means, at least seen from my point of view, that has a lot bigger impact than if we were making it just by ourselves.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, the JRC, the Joint Research Center, shortlisted the design guide. And I think that's much more due to the overall principle and the dogmas and sort of the way of thinking and less about green, yellow, red. We've seen that before, but there are so many sort of the essence and the values within the guide are there. So if you read it, you should actually come to a place where you don't need red, yellow, green, but you're actually a place where you sort of say, am I polluting other streams? Am I making something that's easily recyclable? Am I willing to take the same material back into my production again? These sort of principles, which are of essence. And I think that's a very good bridge to sort of where we're coming from. I wouldn't say that it's easier working with food packaging, but I think it makes it clearer for us. Today, as stated before, we're both a packaging producer, but also an integrated recycler. And we're an integrated recycler due to PET. And when we're talking circular economy today, the PET enables us to do application to application or tray to tray recycling. And that's sort of the truest form of circular economy for us. So when you enable products that can contain up to 100% recycled content, and it's very important here that we underline that it's post-consumer recycled content, and these products are can enter a system or a stream where they can recirculate, recycle back into new food packaging again. I think that's where we are sort of setting the target, and that's what we are aiming for delivering. So why is PET different from the other plastics? Well, to start out with, as you also underlined, that there might be a need for at some point to sort non-food or food into different streams. And if you look at the table, it becomes fairly clear that many of the other plastic types are used in all sorts of different applications. And it just makes it a lot harder when you have a mix and when you have a contamination level or a potential misuse level that is different from the PET scenario to actually put it back into food grade material. Hence, you go into a spiral recycling. So if you've chosen a monomaterial PET and set it into a system where it works, I think that's where we truly see what we are aiming for and what the aim should be, because that will be the enabler for a circular economy. And that's why material choice is of the essence. I'll put on a video now.
Material matters. To create circularity, choosing the right material is very important. For rigid food packaging, the choice is easy. PET is the superior material. It is commonly used in bottles, and it is becoming the standard for trays, allowing true circularity, and complies with the strictest regulation on food safety. Faerch. Packaging that cares.
All right. So that's our thoughts about material choice, because it will always start with good design and then material choice. Those will be the enablers. Those initial parameters will be the defining factor if the system works, if the circular economy can actually be enabled. If we look at other key levers today, I think we've over the years seen that the industry might not be moving fast enough itself. So what we're seeing now, sort of in smaller or huge activities in some of the markets, are these extended producer responsibility taxes that are coming. So at the start of the year, we saw France putting a bonus into the fee system on household plastic waste or PET coming from the stream. And why are they doing this? Well, they're of course doing it because they want to develop, they want to stimulate the circular industry. And they want to enable, food packaging to actually be circular, to come back as food packaging again and again, because that's where we'll see a true impact. What are we also seeing? Well, We're seeing that in 2022 you will see a different system, but also a tax system in the UK. And potentially to year we will see an implementation both in Italy and Spain. We're yet to see if that will happen or not, but at least we're seeing this transition. We also know that in the end of 2024, all countries to some degree will have to have a plan or have something implemented due to the extended producer responsibility. And one of the key enablers will probably be a tax or a fee or a bonus for products or materials that will enable true circularity. Another key enabler or another key lever is the industry. And if we look back at 2019, in the blue columns, you're seeing an industry that were on its sort of way of incorporating recycled material and recycled content into their products, but you're also seeing extremely ambitious targets. And these ambitious targets, those will be the true stimulant for a circular economy. Most of these companies, or most of the sort of the very large entities have either written PET in or mentioned it sort of between the lines. And that's because today, as you all know, PET is the only sort of plastic material within mechanical recycling that's capable of being incorporated back into food packaging. So we have the public, or should we say sort of the political sector, and then we also have the private. So what are we doing today? Well, in 2018, we acquired Faerch in the Netherlands. So circular recycling trade-to-trade business. We've worked, we've innovated, we've invested quite a lot of time and money into Faerch. And today we can truly say that we have a blueprint. So the plan for Faerch as a packaging business has now become a plan for packaging and recycling business. We're here to expand, and we're here to make trade-to-trade recycling not only something that we have in the Netherlands, but something that we'll have across Europe over time. At the end of the year, I think we will circular recycling something that's equivalent to 100 million trays such as these, made from 100% recycled content, household trade-to-trade post-consumer PET. So what do we do at Faerch? Well, please watch the video.
Here we see the input material as we receive it, and there you can see the future of recycling, which is processing PET trays.
Faerch is a unique site in Europe, or globally actually, because it's the only factory that is able to take in used food trays and to recycle them into a raw material that we can use to produce new food trays out of.
When we have entered the bales, then they are opened, they are pre-washed, and the lids and the labels, the lighter fractions are separated in this machine. And afterwards we have separated the tray material that we want to process. That finally becomes our end material, like granulates or flakes. Trays are scanned through infrared, so we can assess what material we can use and what material is other than PET, and that is thrown out of the machine and recycled by others.
We know how great an impact it has on the environment and on the climate and on the energy consumption. And that benefit is for all of us, and that is something that is unique for us to do.
The final step in the process, the clean flakes, they are extruded and we make granulate or pellets from it again, which is this material, and that's basically the material the whole process started with, so we have closed the loop.
So that was Faerch in a nutshell.
Yeah, and actually it's a great example of you as a company going full circle, trying to create your own feedstock by expanding into Holland with your own facilities. Many companies don't have that opportunity, but when we look upon the design guide, it's one of the things that was debated also, that we are creating design guides and guidelines in Denmark on how to make the perfect plastic packaging and make it circular. But we know that goods are going over borders, so we need a system that is that can comply with every nation within Europe. As a Plastics Federation, we're deeply involved with the European Plastic Pact, trying to create guidelines for making waste streams going across borders, because when we know that we are, as a nation, are exporting, with at least within the plastics industry, around 70% of our products. So they should also meet the requirements in the waste handling and the sorting outside. So, but you found a way to make your own feedstock or create a closed loop within your company.
Yeah, I think we're both doing closed loops that you're talking about with companies where we truly like deliver food and actually take or we don't deliver food, we deliver packaging and then get the packaging back again as a truly closed loop. But that's also a mitigation for a system that might not be working everywhere. I think from a design perspective, when we're talking PET, I think the most important thing is that you're looking into monomaterials. And that will continue to be of essence to us. What we're also seeing is that, as you talked about, quality is of importance. And as a PET recycler, we today follow the KIDV specification, which is a bale specification that is the national quality parameter in the Netherlands. That is the base for us. And that sort of determines what purity level or what contamination and impurities you can have in your bale. I think one of the largest contaminants that we're seeing here is there's a paradox in continuing to promote clear PET as long as we have PET PE into the system. Because PET PE or the PE will continue to make the clear PET hazy or yellow, create this milkiness into the PET. And that's also why I think it's extremely important, as also mentioned in the design guide, to look at, so what can you do? Well, if you're producing materials in a clear, then make sure that they can come out clear again, or at least accept that they will come out as uncolored or non-color afterwards. I think the the evolved tray, that's a good example of that, because this is sort of the true mirror of the European household stream. And I think it's also quite important to say that we as recyclers see very, very little difference between Southern Europe, Central or Northern Europe. Waste and PET waste or packaging waste is almost similar. So the design requirements in one country where you're thinking about, are you enabling a circular economy, are you enabling a recycling afterwards, are you not, will be the same in almost all countries. So today we are taking an input material of household waste and getting an output material that will fluctuate. So towards summer, you will have lighter, clearer trays, and towards winter, you might have more blue or darker trays, simply due to changes in the packaging over time. What is also extremely important for us and all of our customers and the circular economy in general is that you get what you're paying for. And I think we as an industry need to talk much more about post-consumer recycled content. Because post-consumer recycled content will be the true impact or the sustainability impact parameter of your plastics packaging. Because this is where you truly see, did I take something from an otherwise sort of a waste stream and put it into a valuable material, or did I not? That will be both for non-food and for food applications over time. This is where we truly look at a resource and take it back again. That's also why we as a company now, and we hope that this will be an industry standard over time, that we are truly pushing to have the entire industry third-party validating their mass balance numbers when they're looking into post-consumer recycled or virgin mass balance into their business. Because it is so important that our customers and our end consumers know that they're getting what they're paying for. So, as an industry, I think we need to take complexity out of the system, try to, when possible, to produce more in mono materials, try to look into design guides and reach out to organizations or to experts that will help you in designing into a system or designing into a future system so that the circular economy will actually be enabled by the right choice. We're seeing the industry is moving, we're seeing the political system is moving as well, and I think it's extremely important as a packaging industry that we continue to take complexity out of the system and make it easier for everyone so that we will actually have this circular economy over the coming years.
Yeah, and as a final remark from my point of view, is that if you want to have a closer look at the design guide, you can download it from our webpage at the Danish Plastics Association. It's in English as well, so we're not required to learn Danish before doing it. www.plast.dk is where you find it, and just search for the design guide. And thank you so much for listening, and it's been a privilege actually being two together here at Corona times. So it's
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on. It seems to work. Thomas and Thomas, I can see you. Very impressive presentation. Thank you very much for that. We have prepared some questions for you, and I'd like to start maybe with the questions to the Danish Plastic Federation, Thomas. You got quite a group together, and one of the questions we have working international is, how did you manage to get so much different stakeholders under one roof? And then I can follow up with the next question. How will you do the same thing on a European base?
Well, it wasn't easy, of course. There's a lot of strong individual interests when you gather a group like that. But luckily also a very big and a bigger wish to find a sustainable solution to the whole discussion about how to create a circular plastic packaging. I think the great thing about it is that when you gather a group like that, during the discussions and the dialogue, and as it went on, the barriers, they broke down and everybody got a bigger understanding of each other's positions. So getting to know each other and understanding each other, we reached a common ground and the opportunity to make the design guide that everybody could approve upon. So it's, I think it was everybody's understanding. If we need something that is, secure from the future, and instead of fighting about small details, we need to look at a bigger picture. So it was a good and a great learning experience. And as I mentioned in the presentation, we've had much positive attention, not only from our customers, from our members, but also from the politicians. And right now we are the second question about taking it to the European level. Well, we are working very closely with the Danish Environmental Ministry and also the European Plastic Pact. So we have in our environmental manager positioned in the steering committee of the European Plastic Pact, and they're focusing on developing guidelines throughout Europe, focusing on plastic packaging. So it's a little bit not the same process, but a lot of the discussions we've already had once. So of course that's beneficial to us. But again, a very strong overall interest in creating these common guidelines, so that every nation doesn't have their own guidelines.
Okay, thank you. Any idea on the timing? What are we looking at? Couple of years? Couple of decades?
No, everybody's very busy with the work, so I don't have a complete overview of the timing, but it's work that is going on for the next years, and I think it will, and there'll be a lot of progression. You'll get better and better. So I don't have a timeline saying now we have a European common guideline, but we're working on it on a daily basis.
Thank you for working on it, and we'll keep the fingers crossed, and if we can, we will help.
Sounds great.
Thomas from Faerch, where would you see that the PET market goes maybe in the next 10 years? And what role do you see for the chemical recycling, like we heard before, to play when it comes to PET recycling?
So the PET market, the next 10 years, I think it will be fierce and exciting. I think there will be a lot of demand. I think we all know that in 2025, all the bottle producers will have to include 25% recycled content, and in 2030 they'll have to include 30% recycled content into their bottles. So there will be a huge consumption from that part of the packaging world. From a trade-to-trade recycling perspective, that hopefully will also create opportunities and more stimulants to enable this application-to-application or food packaging PET recycling, not only for us but also for competitors or us partnering up with more people around Europe. But I think as long as there's not a this EFSA scientific study for PE or for PP, then PET will be the primary resource or the primary material that can be incorporated back into food packaging again, simply because there's less complexity and because you don't know what the start contamination level is with the other plastics, and that will just continue to be an issue even with a lot of technical improvements. And if that is not sorted, then I think the PET market will become even bigger and quite fast. But yeah, and chemical recycling in the PET world, that would be monomer recycling. I think chemical recycling in general is could potentially leapfrog the recycling business and create huge improvements in general for all societies around the world. I sometimes wonder if you, from a chemical recycling perspective, will start with the easily recyclable. So, for example, rigid food packaging, which is actually to some degree fairly easy recyclable compared to very contaminant sources, electronic waste with flame retardants and all these sorts of things. So like from a political point of view, if they have any control, would you then choose the easy to recycle material streams, or would you choose something else? But I think from an overall point of view, chemical recycling will be extremely exciting to follow, but it's huge investments and it's truly an infrastructure change that will take quite some time.
Thank you very much. One question, or actually two questions, but they circle around the same thing: is how do we come to a kind of a certificate to enable the consumers or the market to state the material as recyclable and approved for the use in plastic. Not in plastic, in food packaging, of course.
Are you asking me? I think there's a tendency with all the different suppliers and also all the different waste management organizations or EPR systems that we're working with, that either you're looking into the future and your taxes and your fee schemes are developed so that you are trying to stimulate a circular future going forward, or the opposite, and we're seeing that many places, you're looking at how is it today. And if you're looking at how is it today, then you will continue to stimulate or to develop infrastructure with materials that are large today and maybe not recyclable or circular recyclable back into food packaging. Whereas if you're looking sort of for a future system, you might sort of change your fee schemes or your EPR system differently. So how do we go from A to B? I think there's an overall need, and I think that's coming in the extended producer responsibility and from the Commission in general, where we're seeing that we will have to set targets now, and we actually have to deliver on them. So continue sort of to talk about that tomorrow we will solve or something. At some point, we also simply need to say, what do we have today technology-wise? What can we deliver? And then build systems on that so that we, both on a short term, but also on a long term, deliver on these climate and environmental recyclability targets, which will be, where we truly see CO2 and environmental issues being resolved.
Okay, thank you. But maybe the other, Thomas, then, these were the targets, but I think the question circled a little bit out. Is there certificates today? And if yes, who would give them? What do you consider as 100% recycled or something like this, what we see on many packages?
Well, there's a few debates going on right now on how to define recyclability. When we're talking about chemical recycling, what is perceived as being recycled? Mechanical recycle, is it enough that we recycle products from within the production, or should it be a post-consumer to be defined as recycled? So there's still some definitions to be made. There's a lot of focus from our recycling companies in Denmark on certificates, on being able to prove where has the material come from, is there any contaminations to it, and I think there's a lot of need for perceiving this as our goal is not to recycle as much as possible. And it's often that discussion that we're having. The goal is to have as high as a quality in the recycling as possible. And to get a high quality, you need some sort of, perhaps some sort of certification. And I know that the recycling companies some of them are issuing them right now. If it comes to the producers, that they are issuing you a certificate, I'm not quite sure. But there's a need for a transparent way of dealing with the raw material. The focus is from our converting industry also, do we have a sufficient supply or a steady supply stream of raw materials that we can, make products with the recycled materials in it? We have a consumer request saying that they need products that are fit for reuse and recycling, but also starting to request the products with the more recycled material in it. And we know that the barriers are sometimes how much contaminated material do we allow before it could be food contact material. So there's discussion about it, but I don't have an exact answer on who are delivering the certificates.
Okay, thank you. There seems to be a little work ahead of us, but we got quite some way. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to have you here, and we hopefully see you latest in Geneva. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to all our speakers and of course to you, our audience. We hope you did enjoy the presentations and hope to see you here soon again.
We also like to thank our sponsors. Without them, this event would not have taken place. And we also like to thank the company ELIC for letting us use their facility and work with their technicians. You can believe they got several heart attacks, but I'm happy we managed to get it working at the very end. So great thanks to you. The next event will take place in America, at Grand Rapids in September at the SPE conference in the USA. We will partly record and stream from there, and the subject will be smart manufacturing. It will apply to thin gauge as well as to heavy gauge. So thank you for listening. Stay healthy. Goodbye from Heilbronn.
Bye.